Relationship advice. Update. My 25 male, now ex-girlfriend, 22 female, cheated on me with my now former best friend, 24 male. This has been a pretty horrible week. This guy has been like a brother to me since freshman year in college. He was dating this girl, 23 female, as well, and she is the one who found out and told me. We've hung out a fair bit as couples, and honestly, I never noticed anything besides the usual banter. It's the worst betrayal I can imagine. And since I found out, I feel like I've been walking underwater since. His girlfriend discovered it when she saw he was getting multiple Snapchats from my girlfriend while he was asleep, well after midnight. She checked, and let's just say the evidence was compromising, and didn't leave anything to the imagination. She screenshotted it, sent it to herself and then me. I spoke to her very briefly on the phone, as long as we could both keep it together, just to make sure this was beyond all doubt. After that, I sent the screenshot to my girlfriend as well as my friend, told them it was over, and then blocked both their numbers. Neither has made the effort to reach out, which suggests to me it was likely they weren't just screwing and probably intended to break up with us eventually and get together. A masochistic part of me wants to know details, but I think it's best I don't. I imagine his girlfriend also handled things on her end. We're living under some pretty tough COVID restrictions, so there's not a lot I can do to take my mind off things right now. I just work and spend time in my own thoughts. I am probably lucky that I didn't live with my girlfriend yet. It was something I was thinking of bringing up with her ironically. I've told one other friend about this over the phone, but that's it. Haven't even told my parents yet. They love my friend like a son, and it's not a conversation I want to have, because I'd basically be admitting I'm an idiot who can't tell when two of the closest people to him are screwing him over. His ex sent me a text the other day, and asked if I could come over and talk. I'm in two minds about this. On the one hand, I'm mourning losing him over losing her by a lot. I was in this relationship for a year, and I've known him for 8 years. He was going to be best man at my wedding, and my kid's godfather. Seeing his ex is just going to be a reminder of what he did to me. Also, I'm not sure if she wants to meet because she wants to hook up with me or not. I admit that would probably feel good, though might not be healthy in the long run. Probably not thinking that far ahead though. On the other hand, if there's one person I feel I can bring myself to let my guard down with, it's probably her, because she is likely feeling the same thing. I want someone to express my grief to without feeling pathetic. What should I do? What are the pros and cons of going over to see this girl? Now for the top advice, before reading the updates. I don't necessarily think that going to see her would be that bad of an idea. It doesn't have to be for a hookup. I think you need someone to share in your grief right now. This could be good for you. Is it bad that the more I think about it, the more I actually want something physical to happen? That's not necessarily a bad thing either. You're hurt and want comfort. If both of you are up for it, then I see no issue. However, make sure you're not doing it out of spite for both of your exes, because that will only lead to confusion and possibly hurting both of you all over again. But if you both just want to fool around, then there's no harm in that. I don't really get the spite thing. Clearly neither of them care about either of us in the slightest, so us screwing wouldn't make a difference to them. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I want to do it just so I can feel more like a man again. Hooking up with the ex would be good revenge, and probably a good distraction, and who knows, maybe you guys would get along. However, would you feel like a piece of crap in the long run? In either case, I 100% think you did the right thing by blocking them both and focusing on yourself. Such a tough situation, wishing you the best, man. Edited in an update. And now for the first update. Thank you to everyone who commented on my first post. So, I ended up going over to my now former friend's now ex's place late last evening after dinner. She opened the door and didn't look great. Her eyes were kind of bloodshot. At first, I thought she had been crying recently, but she said she later hadn't slept much the past few days. Fair. It's been the same for me. We sat on her couch. I started off with thanking her for reaching out and letting me know what she had discovered in the first place. She said she wished she had approached me sooner because she had felt like things had been off for the past 3 months. According to her, it seemed like whenever the four of us hung out, the banter between my ex and hers had just started escalating a little bit, and there seemed to be an incremental amount of teasing and inside jokes. It never came close to occurring to me, because literally the last person I would ever suspect my ex of cheating with was my best friend. She admits for the longest time she also thought she was just imagining it, and figured it was normal for my ex and hers to get along so well because they were close to me. Hell, her and I ourselves also were extremely cordial, though the highlights of our relationship all revolved around her ex. We had organized birthday dinners for him the last 2 years, for example. The other things that are suspicious is that he started routinely getting notifications rather late at night, and he would often make innocuous excuses to leave the room when this happened. The latest round of restrictions hit 2 weeks ago, and before that, she noticed he would occasionally again make seemingly innocuous excuses in isolation about needing to run an errand, and not be back for like an hour and a half. At this point my anger was starting to build because it was likely he was dropping by my ex's place for a quickie. She said all this seemed innocent enough by itself, but altogether, it made her check his phone when the Snapchat came through while he was asleep. I didn't really want to hear about how their confrontation went, but the lease was in her name and she went to live with a friend for 3 days until he moved out. It seemed like he was strangely prepared for this eventuality. Makes me wonder. The thought that he might be shacking up with my ex right now really made my stomach turn. After she finished the story, we sat in silence for a bit. Part of me wanted to cry, but I was too angry to cry. She started to say something, but then she herself broke down and ugly cried. I was a bit hesitant, but I first took her hand and then hugged her. My anger dissipated into grief too, and I teared up some too, but tried to keep it together for her sake. I held her until she calmed down. She wiped her eyes and looked at me for a bit, and well, it happened. We kissed. I don't think either of us specifically initiated it, was almost like the thought struck us both at the same time. I know I badly wanted it, for a bunch of reasons, not the least of which I just wanted to feel like a girl actually wanted me after what happened, but I pulled back and asked her if she was sure. She said she was, and well, one thing led to another. We went to her guest bedroom and did it. She led the way, and I'm very grateful she had that presence of mind, because I definitely did not want to screw her in the same bed my former friend used to. Not too much foreplay, but the act felt good enough. I guess my own barriers came down after the post-orgasm high went away, and it was my turn to cry and her turn to hold me. We fell asleep that way without too much else said. She woke me up this morning, and it turns out she made breakfast, something my own girlfriend never did for me for over a year. I was a bit envious because my former friend told me she did this for him regularly, and I am not a great cook. We didn't talk much, things were kind of awkward. She finally broke the silence and said that she slept better last night than the entire week beforehand. I admitted that was true for me too. I hadn't slept in an empty bed for a week straight since probably 2 weeks into my relationship with my ex. There was probably a lot more to say, but honestly, I really didn't know where to begin. I just wasn't processing anything. She just moved her chair next to mine and held my hand while I finished eating. Once I finished, she attacked me again and we ended up back in bed. After this, I didn't really have a choice about the talking because I had to get back home to start work. When I told her this, she teared up and begged me to stay, because just not being alone right now made her feel better. I kind of felt the same way at this point. COVID isolation sucks anyway, and it's even worse when you're going through what I am. I told her she could come back to my place if she wanted. She brightened up and asked me to give her 5 minutes. She ran to her room and came back with a small bag, including 2 changes of clothes. I noticed it and looked at her. She asked me if I was okay with it. I said okay without really thinking. We went back. I had a Zoom meeting for work at my desk in my bedroom, while she read in my living room. She isn't working right now. I came out for lunch and she kissed me, and while I was heating up some leftovers for us to eat lunch, she hugged me from behind with her chest pressed against my back. I won't lie, it just felt good. I don't know what else to say about it besides it felt good. It's mid-afternoon now and she's napping in my bed. I'm probably going to join her. I'm done early with work, and just spent the last 20 minutes typing this up. When I opened the fridge for lunch, it turned out she had brought a bunch of ingredients with her to make us dinner. I know some of what we're doing probably isn't the healthiest, and I wouldn't do it if it didn't make me feel better in the moment than I have the last week. We do need to talk, that was the whole point of my going over. All we really discussed was how she found out. But I am leaning towards letting her stay as long as she wants. In fact, I actively want her to at this point. COVID has made this whole situation worse because normally I'd be able to meet other friends and do other things. Under the circumstances, the pros of having her as round-the-clock company outweigh the cons. My place is probably the better spot for both of us because her breakup was more painful than mine, their relationship was thrice as long, and I myself don't want to be in a place that reminds me of my friend and the trust he betrayed. I'm just going to take it one day at a time. If anyone has any advice on what to do from here, let me know. Now for the second update. So, My former best friend's ex has spent the last 2 nights at my place. That first day, we napped together in the afternoon as we both slept horribly since everything went down. The way she clings to me while we're sleeping is honestly just tender and makes me feel all kinds of things. We woke up and had intercourse again, lol. She made dinner for us, and we spent the rest of the night just holding each other and watching Netflix. I probably could have gone another round, but she ended up crying again, and after she was done, I myself was too emotional to really want to do anything else other than cuddle and eventually fall asleep. I realized yesterday we really did need to talk. I decided to take the day off from work. I let her sleep in, and when she woke up, I finally sat her down. I started things off by saying that I was really glad she was here with me and that we were helping each other feel better. I emphasized that to me, this had nothing to do with our exes, and was not revenge acts. I wanted to be with her because it made me feel better, and I hoped it made her feel better too. She agreed that it definitely did, and that we were both dealing with a tremendous amount of hurt and trauma, and there wasn't anyone who could empathize better with us than each other. Which was why she wanted to stay till the end of quarantine, if I was okay with it. Dealing with what happened to us was going to take a while, and she wanted to be there for me, and have me be there for her. I was a bit taken aback, as she was basically talking about moving in with me for months, but I honestly felt the same way. Being alone in isolation the week after finding out was hell for me, and that was before I had even started to process what had happened. I was still thinking, and she told me she was moving out of her apartment regardless. She couldn't afford the rent without a job and without her ex, and she had a couple of potential subletters lined up before we met. She was planning on moving in with a friend, but she'd rather be with me. She could leave most of her things with her friend given my apartment was small, and if either of us needed space, she'd go there temporarily. She had taken my hand at this point and was starting to get a bit tearful. I finally agreed that this was a good arrangement. It all felt kind of crazy, but I was just thinking on emotion. She kissed me, hugged me really tightly, and we ended up doing it again. After this, she told me she was going to start going on birth control again so I wouldn't have to use a condom. I really wasn't expecting that. With that settled, we just spent the day together. Cuddled, watched some Netflix, and worked out together. I have some equipment in my apartment, part of why things are so cramped. We went for a walk to buy groceries. She insisted on paying, and cooked again. I haven't brought it up with her yet, but instead of splitting the rent, I was thinking of just letting her pay for groceries since she seems to like to cook anyway. Today, I took another day off from work. I have a lot saved up since it's not like I had the opportunity to use them much since the pandemic started, and we drove to her apartment where we met the friend who was going to store the bulk of her stuff. I'm now back at my place with the stuff she's keeping with us, and her friend is going to drop her back once she drops off the rest. I don't really know how I feel, except a lot better than I did when I made my first post. I'm just not sure if I should be doing this just because it feels good. I know I don't want to be alone, so for that reason alone in my gut I feel like this is the right call, but are things moving too fast? She's probably shown me more affection outside intercourse in 3 days than my ex did in the last 3 months of our relationships. Between the cooking and her desire to let me have unprotected action with her, everything feels kind of domestic. Which ironically, I never felt with my ex. I figure varying degrees of quarantine measures will last another 3 or so months, before vaccinations start to make things significantly better. At that point, perhaps she'll move out and we can take another look at things, perhaps try dating the traditional way if we want to. At this point I can't imagine not wanting to as long as the grief I'm feeling now is not a factor then. Hell, maybe we don't even need to do that and she can just stay on with me. I don't know, I am probably thinking too far ahead. I am nervous because of how unusual the situation is, but it still feels like the right call in my gut. I don't know exactly how I feel about her, except that I care about her and want her around because she makes me feel better and I want to do the same for her. Anyone have any advice? Anything I'm missing? Now for some closing advice. The unprotected ex thing is a beacon for trouble down the line, especially if you've both been cheated on. Probably should wear protection until you get tested, and make sure there's birth control in place. Maybe it will work out, but you guys really aren't in the right frame of mind to be making long-term decisions about a relationship or moving in together. This is way too fast. Thank you for pointing it out. I always used protection with my ex, and last I talked about it to my former friend, he and his ex always did too. I feel like perhaps she wants to do this for me because she never did it with him? It's the same thing as the cooking, something my ex never did. She just wants to do nice things neither of us did in our previous relationships. We'll use protection for now until her birth control takes effect. We're both definitely clean. We've literally only slept with each other and our exes, who were also sleeping with each other, in months. So, you both got cheated on by your partners and are now finding solace in each other since you two are both the ones who got screwed over? It seems really messy, and that you're using each other as a crutch to get over the betrayal. Neither of you had space or time to heal from your previous relationships, and are trying to settle into some sort of domestic bliss routine. Perhaps it's nice to have someone to relate with since she's been through the same heartbreak, but I don't anticipate this as the ingredient/recipe for a successful relationship at this current stage. Not really thinking that far ahead. You're right, maybe this won't be a long-term thing, though I hope it could be if things break right for us. I just want her around right now because she makes me feel better, and I do the same for her. COVID complicates a lot of things here. Just a couple thoughts. First, make sure you're both dealing with your issues from the ending of your previous relationships. Don't rug sweep them hoping they just go away, or they may turn into a ticking bomb waiting to blow up on you. Second, you two really need to communicate a lot. With the two of you going from casual friends to living together after shared trauma, you'll want to be sure any relationship is built on wanting to be with each other, and not just avoiding being alone. Maybe you can plan some dates outside the apartment that don't require restaurants, movies, etc. Go out on a hiking trail, plan a picnic, visit friends in a socially distant, outdoor setting, etc. Thank you. Yes, I know this will need to come up eventually, but everything is honestly just too raw and painful right now. We've both cried a lot and I still can't begin to process it. I told her we need to address this at some point and she agrees, but also said she can't do it right now. I don't honestly know if there's going to be a relationship after this. Ideally, I'd like to be the case. She's beautiful and a very kind person. I know her well enough, but I don't know her. You're right, it has to be about us as people, not what we're going through. It's another thing to work on. Can't do much in the way of outdoor dates unfortunately because it's cold beyond belief. I had some vague thoughts about perhaps a ski trip in a couple of weeks. And that's it for this video guys. If you have thoughts to share, leave a comment below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you like this content. I'll catch you in the next one. Good day everyone.